A huge thank you to everyone who's been involved in the carbon community since we started just over 5 years ago, and for everyone who has helped in the community science for the Glander Forest Carbon Study.
Yeah, we're super excited. We have our first paper now published in one of the Nature publications, which is amazing to get peer-reviewed science on a world-class study where all of those volunteer hours in all sorts of weathers have really made a difference. So a massive thank you.
Since the study started, hundreds of volunteers have joined us to help maintain the study, but also to measure the trees. And this publication looks at the first 4 years of that measurement, and hundreds of you have joined us to take over 75,000 measurements, which have gone into this important research.
With big, significant results. You know, a 27% lift in sequestered carbon is really a big result that can potentially be applied, you know, worldwide. I mean, it's super, super exciting, and really down to all of those individual measurements that you were talking about that have been captured by volunteers who decided basically to show up and make a difference.
It's really amazing. It just shows what's amazing when people come together to make something happen. And you have made a massive difference. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Now, Bonnie Waring was on site earlier on, and I caught up with her and asked her a little bit about what she thought about the project and where it's going and some of the results.
So we know from extensive lab experiments that enhanced rock weathering can work, and that microbiome restoration can work. But the real question for actual landowners and practitioners is, does it work when applied at a field scale and in the face of real-world variation? And to answer that question, the only thing you can do is a field experiment at the size and scope of the one that we've done here. Because the real world is so variable, you have weather variation, you have the soil that varies from place to place, you really need something that's big in size and replication to be able to detect the effects of interest. Just because they can be hard to detect with a small experiment doesn't mean they're not there. If you want something that can scale up over millions of hectares in the real world, you need to also make inference from a big experiment. And so that's what's really unique about this place, that the size of it is huge, nearly 12 hectares, and the level of replication is huge with 72 plots. The level of application that we have is what enables us to detect the effects of our treatments even in the face of the natural variation in the study site that we have. And of course, also to manage an experiment this big, you need people. You need a team of volunteers like the one we had who are capable of taking data over 6,400 individual trees. So the three ingredients that have motivated the particular success of this work is that we have scientists who are testing the most cutting-edge techniques, but they're doing that in collaboration with the citizen scientists who enable us to scale this research so we can look at 6,400 individual trees. And to do that, we need the infrastructure that enables us to manage the land the way we want and facilitate the work of that huge crew of people. And that's what the charity provides by making this experiment a hub for the research community. So the exciting findings of our research are, first and foremost, that enhanced rock weathering does sequester carbon, but it does so mainly by stimulating the growth of trees. And that really changes the conversation around this as a carbon dioxide removal strategy, because it means that we're thinking about the role that forests can play in enhanced rock weathering. We've also found that microbiome restoration can make trees grow bigger, and this is really exciting to us because it opens a new way of thinking about restoration, restoring soils and trees together. So one of the really interesting things that we found is that, contrary to what we expected, putting the rock weathering and the microbiome restoration treatments together did not maximize their joint effect. In fact, they sort of canceled each other out. And this is really interesting. We still don't totally understand the mechanism for this, but it has something to do with the novel fungal community that developed in the joint impacts of these treatments. And that tells us that there's a lot more to this below ground story. The fungi that you have at a particular site and the way that those fungi are influenced by your land management has a huge role in how the forest develops. So there's a few obvious next steps for this research, and the first is to really optimize this microbiome restoration treatment. It worked super well for some species, not so well for others. We can understand why that is if we do more research on the ecology of the plant and fungal interaction. The enhanced rock weathering treatment also is going to have impacts on the carbon stores below ground, and that's another place that we really need to go. We're looking at the above ground carbon storage. We can see it all around us, but there's even more carbon beneath our feet, and that's where we need to go next. So we started this experiment because we know it can work in the lab, and we wanted to answer the question, does it work in the field? And we've shown that yes, it does. But now, before we can go out and recommend this to be adopted literally worldwide, we need to understand exactly which are the characteristics of a site that make it the best candidate for the microbiome restoration or the rock weathering. And to answer that question, we just need to do this research in more places, not necessarily with the same level of replication and degree of investment that we have here, but I'm envisioning multiple parallel experiments around the UK that can help us really develop that roadmap for restoration as we go into the next decade.